Before I begin, I have to say good morning to all again. Thank you for being here with us in this 2011 Puerto Rico Credit Conference. I obviously look forward to sharing not only the information that I will be presenting now, but also the information that our complete team will be sharing with you regarding all the initiatives and results we have seen today. A little bit of administrative issues. We have been informed by our lawyers that we have to present the customary disclaimer regarding all the information you will be seeing here today, so please take a few seconds to review this disclaimer. Okay, we're complying. Beginning with some recent developments, and this is information you just saw on Carlos's presentation. Obviously, the path to Puerto Rico's economic and fiscal reconstruction has been very challenging indeed, but we are committed to continue addressing these critical issues to reestablish sustainable long-term economic growth. Through a series of key reforms, as were described in more detail by Carlos, including the establishment of the Public-Private Partnerships Authority, from which we will be seeing a lot more information today from the Executive Director, Mr. David Alvarez. We have enacted a permits reform, energy reform, health reform, tax reform, and we feel highly encouraged that we are now ready to embark on our new journey of sustainable economic growth for our new future. As you also know, over the past 2 years, all major credit agencies have recognized our fiscal progress with positive rating actions. Among these, you know, Moody's assigned Puerto Rico a rating of A3 on its general obligation debt, the highest rating we have achieved in 35 years. Fitch, this past January 2011, assigned an inaugural rating of BBB+. And S&P, very recently, in March of 2011, gave us our first upgrade in the history of our relationship with S&P, upgrading the credit from a BBB- to a BBB with a stable outlook. We feel very optimistic of the progress we have made. We have come a very long way, as you all know, and we will continue our course into our new future. Moving on to some brief information I wanted to share with you regarding cash flow management and projections. Understanding the importance of maintaining strict fiscal controls at the GDB, we continue to focus on prudent cash management, allowing us to monitor all government expenses and revenues as needed. For the quarter that ended in March 31st, 2011, the third quarter of fiscal year 2011, we ended our cash balance with $141 million, pretty much in line with what we had projected of $144 million. A closer look at the cash balances shows that ending cash balance for the third quarter was $3 million off of our initial estimate, barely 2.1%. Collections and receipts ended $24 million above projections, while expenses were 1.7% above projections, or $61 million. We used, from our stabilization funds, the amount that was used during the quarter was 9.6% below projections, and we obviously are committed to continue monitoring the cash balance of the government to ensure compliance with future projections. Moving on to more exciting news, we wanted to share with you today a series of recent economic indicators that have been most of them published in our websites, which, as the governor and Carlos mentioned, have been showing a positive trend over the past several months. When we analyze all these recent economic indicators, we see very, very encouraging signs for Puerto Rico. Beginning with the GDP Economic Activity Index, during the month of February 2011, it registered an increase of 0.5% to 127.2 over the previous months. This was the first month-over-month increase since October 2010, and it was the smallest decline in year-over-year comparison since September 2007. More importantly, what we can derive from this most recent measure is that 3 of the 4 components that make up this economic activity index showed positive signs on a month-over-month period between January and February. As the governor mentioned, we were very enthusiastic recently when economic improvement was further validated and recognized by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York chief, who was here in Puerto Rico last week, and who acknowledged during his visit that Puerto Rico is on track to an economic recovery. In his words, Puerto Rico may finally be emerging from a very painful recession, and although he acknowledged that our recovery has taken longer to get off the ground, it definitely shows signs of firming up, as many indicators suggest that conditions are in place for a stronger employment growth into the future. Our reconstruction plan continues to succeed, with private sector employment showing continued signs of stabilization. The year-over-year change for the February 2011 measure was negative 0.6%, the smallest decline that we have seen since September 2007. And when looked at next to the service sector employment, we now see the service sector showing marked improvement, with the year-over-year February increase of 1.6% on the positive side. And as you see on the graph, we're definitely seeing a clear trend on the positive side. Increased consumer confidence is also evidenced by a rise in both retail and auto sales. Since October of 2009, 12 of the 14 months of the period ending in December 2010 have shown positive year-over-year changes, and auto sales have experienced growth in 14 of 16 observations through February 2011. I think this information also validates some of the other indicators that we'll be seeing that show that we are definitely on the right track, and the measures that we've been taking, the actions that have been put in place, are giving results. We have also jump-started through a housing stimulus plan that was put in place last year, our real estate market, with strategic initiatives that have spurred economic activity. New home sales on a year-over-year basis have grown 51.8% when compared on the 6-month period between September and February of 2009 to September and February of 10 through 11. We've seen a 51.8% increase in new home sales and an 8.1% increase on existing home sales. This compares very favorably to what we've seen stateside, where we've seen a decline of almost 20% on new home sales and 13% in existing home sales. When you add up all this activity, we've seen 13,194 total homes sold in the 6-month period, representing over $1.8 billion in sales. On the export side, and our Treasury Secretary will go into more detail on these numbers, but we are seeing a 5% year-over-year basis increase as of October of 2010. We're looking at this number between January and October to exclude the outliers that we experienced during the months of November and December, which as a result of the implementation of the excise tax, we believe some companies were doing some interesting tax planning strategies. And obviously, there you have an outlier, which on the months of November and December. But eliminating those 2 months, we're still seeing a positive trend for some months now, and specifically during the period between January and October, a 5% increase. In terms of the Puerto Rico Planning Board's recent revised economic projections, we expect positive growth for the upcoming fiscal year. Our projections, although they were for this fiscal year ending in June 30, 2011, were revised to a negative 1.0 from a positive 0.4 to account mainly for significant changes in oil and the impact that these have on our economy. We do expect and validate our projections for the fiscal year 2012. We're expecting a positive growth of between 0.7% and 2.2%. This growth is being modeled under the assumptions that we still have considerable amounts of ARA funds that need to be deployed into the economy. We believe that the implementation of certain public-private partnerships will definitely help us in spurring economic activity. We still have balances to deploy into the economy on our local stimulus plan. We believe that as a result of the implementation of the tax reform, we will assist in increasing consumer spending, and we will see some of this information also further along during the morning. And as a result of all these initiatives, and also on the implementation of the school modernization program through the Public-Private Partnership Authority, we've been able to put already more than 40 public schools that are under this program, and we expect to have a total of 100 schools participating in this program. And as some of you know, this will be financed through an upcoming bond issue in the local market that could reach up to $750 million. In terms of our deficit, obviously, as you saw in some of the previous graphs, the previous presentation, we have been diligently working at closing this gap from a $3.3 billion deficit that was inherited by this administration in 2009 to a projected gap for the year ending in June 30, 2011 of $1 billion. We will be experiencing a 70% reduction in that gap. We are projecting a deficit for fiscal year 2012 of $550 to $650 million, and having a balance. We're sticking by our goal of having a balanced budget by 2013. The reduction in our deficit is an unparalleled fiscal improvement, when in fiscal year 2009 we ranked 51 out of 52 jurisdictions when ranked by deficit as a percent of revenues. Today we can say that our ranking has now projected to be for the fiscal year 2012 to move down to number 15 from 51 when we were ranked in the same manner as a deficit as a percent of revenues, down to 7.5% in a number 15 position. We know we have still a lot of work to do. We know we have a lot of initiatives to put in place, but we also know that we have the necessary tools and the correct team in place to make sure that we can achieve our goals. Moving on to the pension reform plan, as has been also previously commented by our governor, we have been working diligently over the past year in pension reform initiatives that are looking to address liquidity and long-term funding levels of our retirement system. As you all know, our retirement system we are facing a very serious situation in our current funding ratios. For our public employee system, we're currently at an 8.5% ratio, the teachers' retirement system at 23.9%, and the judiciary retirement system at 16.4%. But as our governor firmly stated, we are committed to start addressing this problem, but we also understand that this has to be done in a very prudent and sensible manner and over a long period of time, not looking at solving this problem overnight. Our retirement system, as some of you know, is comprised of three principal acts that were enacted since 1951 until the present. These different acts have included different benefits for the participants, and today we currently have 140,642 active participants in the public employees retirement system. This plan includes municipalities, public corporations, and the central government. However, back in 1999, we already took a very important first step to addressing this problem for participants who entered the system beyond 1999. Today, we're just among only 4 jurisdictions within the United States that have some form of defined contribution, which obviously serves as a self-correcting mechanism over the long term, and which definitely will help us manage our situation in the coming years. In last year's credit conference, our governor announced plans to create a special commission focused on finding solutions and submitting recommendations to improve the funding status of our pension system. This commission, as promised, submitted a series of recommendations to address these problems. These recommendations, this commission, as you know, was comprised of a series of sectors, including retired employees, participant employees. And this commission came up with 5 alternatives that could be considered. In one of them, we were able to obtain a recommendation that had 100% agreement amongst the different members of the commission. As a result of these recommendations, we have identified initiatives that will extend our system's assets, life, and liquidity over the next years. This plan, as the governor announced, is being considered right now, and we're working on legislation to present it over the coming weeks, which will be focused on two specific items. Number one is increasing employer contribution rates, and number two, we're under consideration the segregation of system assets of the central system assets among central government, municipalities, and public corporations. Obviously, and repeating what I said initially, the solutions to these problems will not happen overnight, and the governor has requested the special commission to continue evaluating alternatives for the future, so we can look for further ways to address the situation. The first part of the recommendation, which is the increase in the employer contribution rate, will provide significant funding improvement to the system. This increase will comprise of an increase in the employee contribution of 1% per year for the first 5 years, and then going up to 1.25% for the following 5 years, for a total of annual increases over the next 10 years. This will have the effect of moving the system closer to being closer to the annual required contribution and improving the funding ratio. The employee contribution at the end of this 10-year period will have gone up from the current 9.275% to a 20.525% by year 2021. And this increase has been factoring in all of our budget multi-year planning projections being carried continuously by our Director of Office of Management and Budget. The result of this change will be a significant extension of system assets that will be obtained through the implementation of this increase in the employee contribution. This graph shows you the line that goes down, the orange line on the left going down is the current situation, assuming that the status quo maintains, and the green line shows you what will be achieved by implementing this change now and increasing this employer contribution. The end result will be an increase in the system's life for an additional 10 years from the projected date where liquid assets will expire in 2014 all the way through 2025. As we implement this reform, we will not only extend the liquidity and the system assets, but we'll also improve the coverage ratio for the pension obligation bonds as a result of this increased employer contribution. We have no plans or intentions to issue additional bonds in the future, but we do have plans of respecting and maintaining our compromise with our bondholders to not, as I mentioned, to not issue any additional bonds and to make sure that we protect your bondholder rights. This graph only shows the current debt service coverage as it is right now. This does not include the projected additional contributions. So as you may imagine, this graph will definitely improve considerably as a result of these changes over time. As I conclude my first presentation, I will be coming back at the end of the conference. I'd like to leave you with a very clear and strong message that I think we have to keep in mind. Fiscal progress is clear and compelling. We have reduced our deficit as a percent of revenues from 44% to 15.7%. Our credit ratings have improved considerably. We have been able to take our credit out of being on the brink of becoming junk to being a couple of notches above that in the worst case, and in all cases in stable, in the case of Fitch and S&P, in a stable outlook. We have been able to be very effective in reducing our financing costs from spreads, yield spreads back in 2009 that were around 2.40% have gone down to 80 basis points today. On the economic forefront, we have been able to stabilize the unemployment and reduced it from 16.9% to 16%. We have been able to stabilize the economic activity on the island when we had back in 2009 year-over-year decreases of 6.1% to 1.8% today. We have been able to stabilize private employment, and we're very optimistic that we'll be seeing positive numbers in the near future on a year-over-year basis. We're already seeing them on a month-over-month basis in recent months. And we have been able to jumpstart the service sector employment by already being in positive territory. Our reconstruction plan obviously continues to deliver results, not only through the recent positive rating actions that have validated our efforts, the reduction that we'll be able to achieve in the deficit as a percent of revenues, which we are projecting to end the next fiscal year at 7.5%. Our recent economic indicators confirm that Puerto Rico is on an economic improving trend. Main economic reforms are in place, and we're starting to see the effects that they are having. And we are advancing initiatives to address liquidity and long-term funding status of our retirement system while strengthening the debt service coverage for our bondholders. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the coming presentations, and I'll be joining you again at the end of the conference for more concluding remarks. Thank you.